Evening, everyone. Thank you very, very much for joining. We have a very important talk tonight. It's really a schus and a kavod to have Rabbi Jonas and Jonathan Schwartz with us. He's the Rav in Congregation Adath Israel of Hillside / Elizabeth. I had the schus of spending Shabbos in his beautiful shul, and I got a most memorable introduction that I still treasure till today. Thank you very much. Rabbi Schwartz received smicha from Ritz and his bachelor's, master's, and doctorate and psychology degree from Yeshiva University. Rabbi Schwartz served as the visiting assistant professor of psychology. He's a licensed psychologist, and very importantly for tonight's talk, he's the clinical director of the Center for Anxiety Relief in Union, New Jersey. A respected authority on anxiety disorders and OCD. He served as a staff therapist at various critical community clinics, including the Center for Cognitive Behavior Psychotherapy, Bronx VA Medical Center, Tikva, OHEL, and Pesach Tikva in Williamsburg. He's written and published psychologically oriented articles spanning the Jewish life cycle and focused on anxiety and mood-related issues. And I think, Rabbi Yonason, if there's anything that we could all use help with, it's managing our stress. And want to start with some opening thoughts, and then we'll go to some questions.
I would say with that, first of all, Rabbi, thank you very much. I love posting, and my mother would have been proud listening to the entire introduction, and I get more and more bashful within the process. Hopefully after this, I'll be able to sit down and sort of use some of my own tips to calm myself down just from the experience. And I want to thank not only you, Rabbi, for the opportunity, but for the 52 plus people who are already joining into tonight's conversation. If you're here, then by definition, you want to learn. You want to learn together. We want to be able to talk together and take the opportunity just to sort of share ideas back and forth. And if I could say many, many wonderful things about Rabbi Horowitz and the wonderful experience that I've had just knowing him. I know, for instance, even since that visit, I've been able to reach out to him for so many different things as a source of inspiration and advice, and just a person who really understands, and I appreciate that, and I treasure the relationship, Rabbi. It means so much to me. We talk a lot about anxiety today. I hear people constantly saying, I'm so anxious, I'm so nervous. But there are two different types. Some people say to me, how do I know if my spouse is really totally suffering from an anxiety disorder, or whether, we're just all busy and we're all running. So maybe I feel like, we're all just running like that. When does just being wound up become a situation where we have to start addressing anxiety? And so there are certain telltale signs that we're going to talk about throughout the evening, I'm sure, Rabbi. I'm sure that people are going to be concerned and have questions. But when a person has a sense of numbness, of disbelief, of anxiety, of fear, when all of a sudden we find that we have way too much energy or no energy whatsoever, massive polar differences, changes in appetite, ability to sleep, we're either sleeping all day long or not at all. If we have difficulty concentrating on one thing or another, more so than just the average, we're tumbled with all the different things that we're doing. I'm talking about where we're sitting down, we're blank staring at a screen, we're already in trouble. We have trouble concentrating, we're having nightmares, we're having body pains that just don't make sense. We have a very short temper. We are using many more outside resources, and I'm not talking about the good ones. Increased levels of alcohol use, increased levels of smoking. When we find ourselves acting out of sorts, it's a good time for us to, or our loved ones, or our spouses, or our families, it's a good time for us to ask ourselves, what is exactly going on over here? Because once we're out of the realm of normal, for the person, we could very seriously be considering and looking at an anxiety situation. So people say to me, like, Rabbi, Lamaisa, I'm trying to understand. We're all in the midst of a crisis. We're all stuck at home, and my next door neighbor seems to be handling everything just fine. And I, on the other hand, I'm not handling it fine. So what's going on over here whereby I'm different than everyone else? Why am I the lucky winner of the anxiety award? What am I doing wrong? And the answer is, you're not doing anything wrong per se. And this is a critical question, because not only will you help yourself by asking the question, you'll also help yourself setting up the terms for the future. Don't ask what you're doing wrong. Ask yourself a simple question. What am I thinking? And I'm not asking that in a critical way, like, sometimes we heard from the Rabbi or the parent when we were growing up, what were you thinking? No, that's not what I mean. Like, really, seriously, what are the initial thoughts before you get that burst or that lull where your heart's starting to race? I know you're anxious, but stop a second, ask yourself, what was I thinking? I tell people come to meet with me all the time. When you're asking the question, just what was I thinking? Most times people don't know the answer. They'll tell you right away how they were feeling. I felt like my heart was about to burst. Yes, Yishkach, thank you. I got that. You came to, that understanding. But before you get there, take a step back. What were you thinking? Very often, we're going to find that when a person is suffering from anxiety, there's a split-second thought. Maybe it's a little protracted, but it gets wiped out right away because our brains can't concentrate that fast between that intense feeling of anxiety, which is just so overwhelming as a feeling, and the thought that may have triggered the intense feeling. But take a look at this. It's not the intense feeling, that's the reaction. You want to know what caused it, because the way you're going to look at that thought is going to change the way that you're going to be able to treat it. So the first thing I tell everyone who comes in to see me, or anytime I talk about anxiety, is if you really want to understand what's going on, ask yourself, just what was I thinking? And it doesn't have to make sense. It just needs to be written down. Just stop so you can look and say, really? I was thinking about that? Why is that important to me? Because it makes a difference. I find during this period in time that very often there are two major themes that we'll find in people who are telling us, I'm having a hard time managing anxiety while I'm experiencing it. One, I'm doubtful. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what is happening. I don't know how I'm going to live. I don't know. And that doubt triggers a certain sense of energy that's misplaced. It has no place to discharge. If I know I'm going to play a big basketball game, or that point at the chasna, right before the chasna and kala come in, and you hear the band go, dun, 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 right? I don't know how many years it's been going on. As soon as I hear that, boom, my heart gets a bump. I never ever once diagnosed myself as anxiety with chasnas. Why? I know what's going on. There's a quick second of anticipation. There's going to be some excitement going on, and what's happening is my body is raising itself up to give some energy to be able to discharge it. But when you call on your body to get ready to do something and then there's nothing to be done, now you're going to have to deal with that extra energy. And that's one of the physical sensations of anxiety. What's causing it? Your brain's initial thought, what's going to be? And I got to get ready to do something. And then nothing happening. The other big theme that people tend to experience, at least the ones that I'm noticing now, is that people feel that they're at a loss of control. It's so funny, if you listen to the news, you're listening to this big debate going on, open, not open, this and that, all the debates are going on. But behind all of it, if you listen to the commentaries, all the news commentators are busy talking about the questions of control and loss of control. And is the governor in control? Is the president in control? Is the local guy in control? The senator, the speaker of the house? It's all about control. Well, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know that for myself, if I feel like I'm in control of my own matzav, of where I'm heading, now all of a sudden I feel that at least I know where my next step will be on the other side of it. When a person goes through a situation where he says, I don't know what to do next, that person experiences anxiety. I remember many years ago, a guy walks into my office, this is already over 20 years ago. A guy who was a very, very famous speaker. I'm changing some of the details. And he was brought all over the world to give these big, big lectures. And people loved him. They paid him lots of money. It was supposed to be like some big cover that he came to my office. And he sits down and he looks at me and he says to me, I've got a big problem. And he starts describing his whole world. And then he says to me, but you know what the hardest thing in the world for me to do is? Get on the plane. I can go speak anywhere with no prep whatsoever. But the minute I hear that whoomp, that sound of the door closing, I'm a wreck and I can't handle it. And we basically stopped and I said to him, well, what do you do to control it? He says, nothing. That's my problem. I have no control on the plane. I can't see the pilots. I can't work with the pilots. What am I supposed to do about it? One of the thoughts that we came up with was this awareness of the fact that when he doesn't feel like he's in control, he's having a problem, which of course was very helpful in developing a treatment. Because if we're going to develop a treatment, we just needed to give him a sense of control over something. I sent him to B&H, made him go buy an MP3 player, had him loaded up with 3 different types of uploads. Then it was called MP3s, right? So somewhere, I told him, he was a frum guy. I said to him, make sure you put on shiurim, Jewish music, and history. He liked Jewish history. So, and 3 different categories. Make sure you have about 100 hours of listening. This is why. I said, because when the door closes on the plane, you have no control of what's going on the plane. But you do have control over exactly what you want to be able to listen to. And for him alone, that gave a certain degree of control. And all of a sudden, he experienced a major reduction in his symptoms. We started with trains, and we moved on to beyond, from elevators to trains to planes. And before he knew what was happening, he was doing incredibly well. What changed? The awareness that while he can't be in control of everything, if he had control of something, he all of a sudden had something to work with, and it worked very, very well for him. We're in a stressful time, and we don't have ability to decide, even in our economic situation or our health situation, what are we going to be in control of? But there's one major thing that we can be in control of, and that's ourselves. And therefore, the thing to issue a control over and ability to manage is who we are and how we are, and what we're doing and what we're listening to. So people say to me, I listen to the radio, first of all, if you can segment what you're listening to, you don't get overwhelmed. If you make sure to segment your day, I understand you're not able to go to work every day. And where I am, we can't go to shul every day. We can't daven b'tzibur every day. But I do know one thing. I have a shachas time, a mincha time, and a ma'ariv time. I make it my business to anchor my day that way. I eat breakfast, I eat lunch, I eat supper. If I don't eat breakfast, lunch, and supper at set times during the day, then all of a sudden things start to fall out of the wayside. I'm not talking down to the tiny minute. I don't need you to get into the point where if supper is served at 6:10 instead of 6 o'clock, everything's off the radar. But if you eat in the morning, in the afternoon, and the night, and we're lucky, if we daven in the morning, afternoon, and night, if I set a certain schedule for exercise, which, by the way, provides a means of releasing endorphins, things that are built up, and that stored energy, and I have a set regimen of exercise every day for a set period in time in the day, you will find that your day is all of a sudden organized, and a lot of those stresses start to go down, not to mention the secondary benefits of each of the things that I described. But the thought process, I feel totally out of control, changes. And it all starts with the awareness that why am I suffering? I'm suffering because I'm stuck on that line of thinking of I'm out of control. Solution, let's find control. Let's give ourselves something that we can have control about. And then, what do I do about my kids? So when we deal with my kids, what do you mean? I'm on top of my kids are on top of me. And I don't know why. It's something about being around those kids. I feel that I'm stressed more than usual. Why might that be? And again, when you're around the people who look up to you and say to you, hey, Tati, Mommy, Daddy, what's happening and what are we going to do? And when are you going to fix it? I have a balabusta who reminds me constantly that it's my job to solve the world's problems. From making it rain to making it stop raining to Tchias HaMesim, I said to her, I'm sorry, with all due respect. The Gemara says in Tainus that even Eliyahu Hanavi was only given one mafteach at a time, one key at a time. And I'm sorry to tell you, I ain't no Eliyahu Hanavi. I'd like to aspire to ask him to come. B'mheira yavo v'galenu. And she said, I really am only yanking your chain. But you want to know something? Our kids aren't yanking our chain. Our kids often look to us, and we feel a responsibility as a parent to protect. And so when the child says to me, how much longer is this going to go on? I need to get back to yeshiva already. I want to see my friends. How much longer? Will there be summer camp this summer? I waited a whole year, haven't I been a good boy, a good girl? I need this summer. Can you promise me at least that much? And the answer is, I don't know. And you're one of those people who really cares to want to know, to be able to give something to my child to hope. Well, where is that going to come from? I can't promise that right now. And so what we need to do is learn to be honest with our kids. I hope so. We're going to do everything in the power that we can to make it happen, but not to feel that I have to solve everything. Listen, I ain't no Eliyahu Hanavi, and you may be, but as far as I'm concerned, you're still only getting one key at a time. And so therefore, being able to teach and model a behavior of saying to yourself, okay, I'm doing my best here. I'm going to try to give over the best I can. We're in this, and I'm telling you, I'm here to hold your hand the whole way, and we're going to do whatever we can to have the greatest opportunity going forward, and we're going to do it together. You are giving your child support, even though you're not giving him the answer that you think he needs. You're giving him the answer that he wants to hear, that he's not there alone, that she's not going to be left behind, that you're always going to be with them, and that you're going to protect them. And that's a pretty important matter. So again, as an adult, managing stress, the first thing you got to do is think to yourself, am I stressed out? And the second questions we want to ask is, what are my thoughts that are driving my stress out? It could be my own issues, could be some of the expectations that are being put on me that I can't handle. So what do I do about that? Well, we already suggested the understanding that the first thing we might want to consider is just taking breaks between news cycles. I'll tell you a little secret. Over the course of the day, the news doesn't change so dramatically. So if you're checking the COVID-19 blog at the Yeshiva World every hour, I'm pretty sure that you're not missing that much from 1:18 to 1:21 in the afternoon. Although sometimes, I just checked this before, sometimes it does radically change in 3 minutes. The news is not changing that much where it's going to affect you. And one of the things we have to do is limit our exposure. Anyone who's heard me talk about COVID, whether it's in private conversation, in my shul, with my family, beyond, I have suggested during this point in time to limit the amount of time you're getting your news. Most people don't need to listen to the news more than realistically 30 to 40 minutes a day, even in the midst of coronavirus. And what I suggest you do is limit it, split it in half all together with all the checks on Yeshiva World and all the call-in numbers and all the news stations and the newspapers, grand total, 40 minutes. And if you wake up with the idea in the morning and you say to yourself, no matter what happens from the time I get up to the time I go to sleep, it's 40 minutes. So if I waste all 40 in the morning, I'm losing all the time in the evening. You're not going to do it. And I'll give you a hint. The governor in New York speaks usually at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the governor in New Jersey around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and somebody in Washington around 6. So if you really want to set your time and see where you're holding, don't waste all your time in front. Realize that the Rashi Prakim are the Rashi Prakim, and the rest of your day you've now taken away from sitting on top of COVID. It gives you a chance to focus on other things. Ribbon Shalom, it's been incredible to see all the incredible different offerings that are available now for people to use to get into a schedule when they're away from a schedule. You can take classes, you can join programs like this. Right now, as I speak, there are at least 12 programs I'm aware of going on, ranging from Limud Yomi and a myriad of shiurim, to lectures, to courses, to who knows what going on in between, all kosher, right? But if you find something else you want to do over the course of the day, spend time with your kids. That's a great thing to do. Make sure you get out with them. Get some solid exercise with them. Connect with other people. Pick up a phone. Call people you don't know. Stay informed, but don't stay so exposed to the news. You're creating yet another control, and that control is going to be helpful for you, and it's going to help your family too. And there are just some straight wonderful things you can do for relaxation. First of all, you can walk. Walking is great, especially outside. So the treadmill is wonderful, but the treadmill is monotonous. You know what's better? Going out and getting some fresh air within the rules of safe social distancing. But Baruch Hashem, those opportunities exist. Take the deep breaths, stretch, wash your hands and face, enjoy things that are physically pleasing, because those things give you a break. And take the time out. If you're doing too many stressful activities, I just told my daughter before, if you have math and then Chumash, and then and you're trying to keep up with both programs at the same time, take a break in between them. Don't rush. And when you sit down at night and you're going to try to cram all your homework into 3 hours straight without a break, don't do it. Take breaks every so often. I said if it's a 3 hours at a stretch, take a break every 30 to 40 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long break. Get up and stretch. Create a break within that pattern. Take time to relax and then talk. Talk about your feelings. Mention something. Talk about your day. One of the great things of the new system, I think I'm spending more time every day talking to each one of my kids, which is such an amazing thing. It's not chap-flap wherever I can to get it in between all the different programs. Now I'm getting a chance to talk about each kid, to joke around about a little bit with one another. I think one of my kids said last Friday night, wow, we didn't realize how much fun you can be, how funny you can be. I didn't think I was that funny to begin with, but my kids all of a sudden are discovering that there's more to be had and more to discuss and more to relate to. And I'm loving that aspect of being able to connect. Take advantage. Do that as well. Yes, you may not be able to, those of you who are grandparents, we may not be able to hug and kiss our kids, but one thing we can definitely do is reach out and talk to them. And I have heard from both my mother and my mother-in-law, we have special relationships with your kids that go beyond what you have with your kids. It's a special relationship where you can stay and play critical roles for your kids, your grandchildren. Talk to each and every one of them. Give them a chance to talk to you about what's going on. Share with them what you're doing, what they're doing. If you're able to get out, take a photo of where you've been. When I was talking to Rabbi Horowitz about this program, he sent me a picture of a place he happened to be. It was beautiful. Rabbi, I can't tell you, in that particular moment, you just showed me a beautiful, amazing shot. It was so wide and spaceful and colorful. It just gave me a moment of calm. So you shared a moment of what you're dealing with and taking the time out and shared with me your exercise regimen. And now look at me, all of a sudden, I got a benefit. And I turned around and said, one, I got to exercise like Rabbi Horowitz does. And two, look how well he's doing it. Look at that calm. It reduces my stress to be able to see something open and spaceful. And the colors definitely make a difference. We can be doing that. And we can talk to our kids when they're the ones who are stressed. Little kids, their stress is different. What they need more of is the opportunity to know that they're safe. And somebody to sit down and tell them, don't worry, we're all together. But as your kids get older, it's certainly into the ages where they understand more, they will share their fears. And it's good for us to be able to tell our kids who, when they're stressing out, hey, listen, we understand and it's okay, but we're always going to be here. And we're going to work together. And we're going to set a schedule. My son, who never liked getting up for school, now is the first kid up in the house. Why? Because there's a schedule. And he knows that he wants to be first. So he jumps out of bed when I go to wake up his older brother, and he gets dressed. And before his older brother is able to get ready to go put on film, he's already ready to go. And he's ready and waiting for his manal to get the day started before they send him off to yeshiva. And when he comes home at night, when I come home at night, he is the first one waiting to talk about what's going on, what he learned today, what happened today, how he taught the teacher about the chat. He's in second grade, right? How the kids are having a lot of fun teaching the teachers about new things that are going on. And then he's sharing it with me and he's enjoying it. We have that ability. We have the ability to be there, to listen, to talk, and to share their feelings. To tell them that there's new ways and new outlets and to engage in activities. I have a friend who's a Rabbi in Passaic, who told me he makes it his business every single night to choose an activity that they do as a family. They play a board game, they go outside, they play a quick game of tossing the ball, a catch game, a running bases game, just something that's out of the ordinary to show that they're all connected. And he says, and not only does it make a difference to his kids, it makes a difference to him. And all of a sudden, he feels much more secure, much more calm, and they do as well. And so therefore, Rabbi, I think I'm touching on the bigger issues. Maybe we'll take some questions and go back and forth. But the key issues are to understand stress comes when we're feeling out of control, when we're telling ourselves something that we have to get ready, and then we all of a sudden have no place to get ready because we don't know what we're getting ready for, or when we feel out of control. And so the best ways to handle stress are to acknowledge it and also to be able to find ways to discharge it. And we've discussed a whole bunch of different ways where we can find and remember that the greatest thing we can control are certain aspects of things within our lives, and setting a consistency helps to reduce the stress within the process. That's my opening statement.
That opening statement was beautiful, Rabbi Yonason. It was really insightful. I was taking notes while you were talking, and I found the gaining control part. I'd like to think that I read the right books, but this is very. It was a fascinating story you told about the fellow on the plane who felt calm because he was able to maintain control over something. Is this something that we could teach our children?
I think so, and I think it's to be encouraged also. In other words, we're not telling the children, and certainly when we hit older ages, I see one of the fine Rabbeim of the Masifta happens to be on our call. And I know that he does this every night. I hope I'm not embarrassing him, but I know he's doing it every single night. He's offering the opportunity for his Talmidim. At some point in the midst of a shir, he'll turn around and say, guys, do you want to do this or this? Now the guys are hooking in a little bit more, a couple of minutes on a shir. It's a fantastic opportunity. But that's on a Rebbe level. On a home level, yeah, we can give our kids some choice. Some families are engaging in the process of choosing suppers. And who's going to make it? It was a simple little thing. But now it's not all of a sudden another thing that's being handed to you or taken away. Now we're working on it together. Look at a simple activity like eating. And now all of a sudden we have that opportunity where they're also feeling that they're part of the process. Talking things out and letting them know they're part of the process helps give them the room there within. It's an important process.
Rabbi Yonason, how honest should parents be with children about their own stress? It's pretty hard to fool kids on a good day. But usually the children sense our tension, our anxiety. If they ask us about it, I'm not saying we should share it on our own. Is it helpful to tell kids that let me go back. Is it helpful to tell children that you're feeling stressful so that they should know that this is a normal thing for them to feel?
It depends. It depends on the age of the child, first of all. Little kids, if your child is 6 or 7 or 8, and they look up to their parent as the greatest thing, the Ribono Shel Olam's right hand or left hand person, I don't think I'm ready to destroy that image right away. But as kids get a little bit older, being able to put it into context is not a bad idea at all. You know what? I also get stressed sometimes. You're talking to a 15, 16, 17-year-old child, even sometimes a younger child, 11, 12, 13. I was talking to a Rosh Yeshiva today who was talking to me about anxiety in one of the kids. And he said to me, I told my child that I also once had an anxiety. And this is how I dealt with it, and this is how I experienced it. He said, all of a sudden the wind was taking it out of the child. I said, what do you mean, you knocked him out? He said, no, I saw this tension. And then he said, all of a sudden, it was like I let a balloon out, and he was relaxed. I said, you told your kid you're normal, and you can be a great person, and you are a great person. And you gave him the opportunity to feel comfortable, and you gave him that control. So to turn around and say, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm scared like you, and I don't know what I'm going to do, that may be unending and unnerving for a child. But to be able to turn to a child and say, you know what? I also get a little nervous, but one thing I know, is that I know that we're going to do this together and we're going to get out of it. So meeting the child and then taking the child by the hand into the land of hope gives the child a much stronger grip. And under those circumstances, by all means, it's empowering to the child.
Schwartz, it's so interesting what you said about that control piece. As you were talking, I was scrolling through some conversations that I had with parents to prepare for this, and just listening to my friends talk. And it's so interesting that probably 50% of the people, I asked them, how are you managing? Anything about stress? And probably more than 50% of the people were talking about that they don't know what the plans for the summer are going to be.
I think it's a big issue.
I'm sorry?
I think it's a big, huge issue.
No, it was fascinating to me. I did not think of it at the time. First of all, our kids are out of the house, so we're empty nesting, which, by the way, you know what I say? Empty nesting is the kids are out of the house, right? It's like Shana Rishina, just you don't get supper. I did this for 35 years, buddy. Figure it out. So, but it was so interesting. And I did not pick up on it until you said the story of the fellow on the plane. And as I'm scrolling through, I'm certainly going to be more attentive in the future. The things that people were talking about were things that they had no control over. And I kept hearing this. It looks like the kids are not going back to yeshiva now, but what's going to be with the summer? I don't know. I wish, and I think maybe even not knowing that they'd be closed in some way. I'm not saying it's better, but it gives them some control. And therefore I'm hearing your message is that we should do little things even to take control of ourselves and teach our children to do the same.
And I think, Rabbi, that's well said. That summer situation is the next unknown. So in many places in the tri-state, I think the yeshivas had pretty much said this is the way it's going to continue until the end of the school year. So it is like Rabbi said it. The next big unknown frontier is the summer. What's going to be? Right. And once that becomes clarified,
anxious. Just want to make anybody anxious.
And if it winds up being a summer where we can't do the same things, the next question that you'll say, okay, I understand this. I'm in the city. I'm in my house. I'm in wherever it is I live. I understand. I'm not going to the mountains. Fine. What's going to be with yeshiva? The Menalim don't know. The government doesn't know. Nobody knows. And now we're back to another unknown. When are we going to open? What's going to be? Is that going to be okay? And then, as a mechanech, I wonder, are our kids going to be ready for the year because they missed all the time? I'm starting to hear this from my friends who are mechanechim, that the parents are already getting worried about how they're going to start next year because whatever form of learning is going on now, and really our rebbes and our teachers have been superstar amazing to be able to adapt to this matzav and try to get as much in as they possibly can. And it's been amazing to watch and to be a part of, but still, parents don't know what's going to be in fourth grade if my kid finished third grade and didn't finish exactly to the point where it was supposed to happen. So maybe they need to call Bright Beginnings to sit down over the summer and put together a program where they could sit down and make sure they learned the right amount of the chumash in the right way. I got the commercial, right? But at the same time, will my kid be too far ahead if I do that? Is the yeshiva going to be able to put it together? It's all a bunch of nerves because we don't know what's going to be. Right. And sometimes being able to pull ourselves back and say, okay, forget about what's going to be and hold on to what is.
I also want to encourage the parents, who are on the Zoom chat now, and those who'll be listening later when it's recorded. It was an exercise that I found very helpful. The last thing of this nature that was so unsettling was 9/11. And our kids were all teenagers then. And one of the exercises that I went through in my mind is I thought about this often. I said, I was thinking to myself, who are the adults in leadership positions or any adults in my life that make me feel calm? What are the attributes of family members or or people in leadership positions of even families, like there are some people that you just feel calm around them. And I said, like, what are the attributes of the, I started making a list in my mind of people that I would feel calm in as an emergency. And the truth is, parents, it's not necessarily people who aren't frightened, and it's not, there's just a sense that they're honest, they speak the truth, they tell us, think of elected officials. There are some elected officials, when you listen to them talking, you just get calm. And they'll tell you some really bad news, but they're honest, and they level with us. They allow us to ask them questions. The reporters in our names. I just wanted to put that out. Rabbi Yonason, if I may ask you, what are your thoughts on people who are having issues sleeping at night? What are your thoughts on taking sleeping pills or anything of that nature? I know it runs into the whole fear of addiction, but how does one know when some intervention is needed for the sleep time?
Well, first of all, intervention is always needed. The question is, what type of intervention?
Okay.
If
Right.
you can't sleep at night, you're not going to be comfortable. So usually what winds up happening when a person suffers an insomnia one night, they're driving themselves crazy. He or she is saying to himself, what's going to be tomorrow? Which of course brings, as we've been talking, that same process. And one thing I guarantee you is, if you're busy worrying about tomorrow, you're not going to fall asleep. So the first thing I tell people is, one bad night, you'll tell yourself, no, we'll get through it tomorrow. Baruch Hashem, don't have to get dressed to go to work. I will put my day into order. Whatever will be, will be. You'll find sometimes that alone puts things into a perspective. Sometimes there are just basic exercises that a person can do. Again, what can I do? All of a sudden helps me. So sometimes I'll tell people who can't sleep, don't sleep. Just tell yourself that I'm going to lie here. I'm going to stay in bed. I'm going to lie down and lie back and engage in a different exercise. I use a couple of different types of exercises. The basic one that some of the women on the call or on the recording will remember from Lamaze, from pre-birth classes, which is a basic breathing exercise. We all, as one of my first supervisors said to me, we all breathe. And so therefore it's a natural activity, but most of us don't pay attention to it. But if we put ourselves and demand a rhythm out of something we're going to do anyway, I call, a pattern of breathing. Breathe in to a count of 5, hold your breath to a count of 2, breathe out to a count of 5, 5, 2, 5 breathing. And what happens is I'm breathing in a huge, deep breath. I'm holding it, so I'm blowing up my entire inside like it's a big balloon. And then I'm holding it, so it's a big balloon that's being stretched all the way out. And then I let out all that air to a count of 5, the amount of air I took in. All of a sudden, my body, I'm concentrating on the numbers, 5, 2, 5, 5, 2, 5, right? And I'm releasing the air. My brain is concentrating on something that's less stressful. My body is getting used to a pattern, a regular rhythmic pattern. I'm relaxing my muscles. Often that's enough to make a brain go and say, you know what, I'm busy now, I'm going to sleep. I have a second technique that works very well called progressive muscle relaxation. I can do it with you right now. I want you to, if you're listening somewhere on this call or on this recording, I just want you to know that right now, I feel bad about the fact that that little tingling feeling that you have going on in your right pinky right now, not the left one, just the right one. Just look and just realize, concentrate. You'll see at the very tip of the right pinky, as your arm is sitting there, you'll start to notice that you're having a little bit of a tingling going on there. It's not a big deal, just a little bit of tingling that's going on in the process. And I want you to know why it's there. Why are you starting to feel the tingle? Because I'm suggesting it. It's a question of suggestion. And in the process of getting that suggestion going, your body is turning around and getting that sense of checking, don't find the tingle. Naturally, there's always blood flowing around. And so therefore now all of a sudden you're feeling it as a tingle. Now watch this. Let's say instead of that, we sat down and tried to make sure that right now we're going to just relax your right foot. Your right foot, you just feel it relaxing and you feel it getting heavy. right? You just feel it getting heavy in your right foot. You'll start to feel your right foot is getting heavy. And then you'll feel it move. And we suggest to move it up into your right leg, just between right up to the knee, right? Just the leg and the foot, just until you feel it relaxing, so that it starts to feel heavy. Now, secretly, if I leave my hand like this, it's going to start to feel heavy no matter what. And if I'm lying in bed, it's going to feel heavy. But you know what your brain automatically associates heaviness with? Try this. Remember this tonight when you're all getting ready to go to sleep. When you start to feel heavy, you feel ready to fall asleep. You're telling your body, I'm ready to go to sleep. And you're falling asleep. And before you know it, your brain is ready to go. Even if you don't fall asleep, your body is getting its necessary relaxation. You've turned the switches off in each of these subdivisions of the body. Take advantage and enjoy. So that's a second technique called progressive muscle relaxation, and it works. There's a third technique where I try to get somebody to go put himself or herself into his or her favorite environment. I've had people choose a forest. When I was looking at your picture, which is this huge open golf green with the trees in the background and the blue sky, and to try to immerse myself into that location. It's one thing to see it in 2D. It's another thing to contrast. And in my head right now, as I'm trying to go to sleep, or even as I'm trying just to put myself there, to think of a calm place and try to put myself there, but not just to picture it in my mind. 3D, virtual reality. How do you do that? Try to smell the smells of the place. Try to hear the sounds of the place. Try to create the different contrasts in as vivid a color, the green of the green against the blue of the sky, the tiny little clouds that look like the opening of a cotton ball when you pull it apart, when you start to see the yellow sun and can feel the warmth, even though there's a cold chill that was blowing through that day. All of a sudden, the picture starts to come a lot more vivid. If you're sitting there and chilling out to that, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to fall asleep or you're going to just really enjoy where you are, and it won't make a difference because you will wake up feeling quite rested after the time period. You'll be ready to handle the stressors. These are some of the behavioral exercises that don't require a prescription. And if it persists, if the condition persists longer than a couple of days, so now we need to sort of roll ourselves a little forward. What do I do at that point? I've eliminated caffeine because caffeine is not, the excess caffeine is not your friend prior to going to sleep. I've cut back on very heavy, intense activity before I go to bed. So you got to put Reb Chaim down, Reb Chaim al Rambam, or that really tear-jerking story that you're reading in the novel. Those things you might want to put down a half an hour before you go to bed, right? Take something lighter and easier. Have a nicer conversation. Just let your body calm down. Those things will also work within the process. If you find that it's persisting for a couple of days, then maybe check in and see what's going on. Some people I'm not such an expert. So, you can hear me?
Yeah,
Some people, okay, thank you. Some people,
a second, go ahead.
Okay, I got it. Some people are into melatonin. Melatonin between half a milligram and 3 milligrams of melatonin has been shown to be helpful and is identified as safe. But I don't know of the recommendations of ongoing use of some of these over-the-counter stuff, sleepies and all those other things. If you're really sort of struggling and you can't get a handle on it, there are times where it would be useful to reach out to a doctor to see what can possibly be done. But be honest, and the doctors will usually give you a frontline look, and if necessary, a recommendation to work through some of the stress. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to, but one of the things it was funny. By the way, the reason I shared the picture with you when I was walking the course in nature is because I find it relaxes people. So, it certainly relaxes me. So I just want to tell parents out there, one of the things my wife and I, since we've been dealing with teens at risk and many stressful things that come our way, we usually have a 10 o'clock hold on anything. We don't discuss anything heavy after 10 o'clock unless it's an emergency. And that, it worked very, very well for us. And I find nature, for me, is the most calming thing. So everybody, if you can get out, even I know we're all busy, but I so second the motion, Rabbi Schwartz, to do that. I thank you so very much for your time, Rabbi Schwartz. On behalf of all of our listeners, I really, really want to thank you for your time and your devotion to the klal. My closing remark to everyone, we say, Shlomo HaMelech says, Ani bina li gevura. I am wisdom, speaking metaphorically, I have strength. And we find that the more we understand things, the easier it is to deal with. Even what Rabbi Schwartz mentioned about, control over the environment or some of the other, limiting your exposure. That's something I don't do enough. I give you my word, I'm going to try it for a week at least. My wife went off the grid a while back because she just stressed her out, and it was better for her. I'm going to try. I was taking notes, and I'm really going to try. But my very strong feeling is that the unknown that Rabbi Schwartz, I want to build on what Rabbi Schwartz said. Rabbi Schwartz was talking about how the unknown, like not knowing what doing summer camp, very often when we don't understand what our bodies are doing in terms of stress, let's say, or some of the other issues that we're bringing up that we've been mentioning in this series, not understanding them, even if it's uncomfortable, to be in touch with what's going on. I picked a few, practical things. Even the taking breaks thing was very meaningful. So I encourage everyone to go out and give it a road test. This is a series of talks. Tomorrow night, there'll be another talk. You can use the exact same link for tonight. And if you can go to my YouTube page, it's just go to YouTube, it's Yakov Horowitz. All the talks in this series are up there, and the future ones will be up there. And I just encourage you all. I thank you for coming, for taking the time, and really try to learn and try to grow. The more in touch we are, I think the more comfortable we'll feel. Rabbi Schwartz, one more time, thank you so very much. And
thank you, Rabbi.
Yes, and we should have mazel and bracha and best wishes for menucha above all, to be calm and to even a little bit will certainly improve things. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.